Okay, welcome back for this week's episode of Women's Wellness and Wisdom, Hormones and Beyond. I'm here today with Paula. I'm so excited to talk a little bit about her specialty, breastfeeding, and how that impacts hormones and women's health in general. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about yourself and just your background and what you love about this.
A little bit of my background. I studied at the University of Florida. I have my bachelor's in health education. I have my CLC certificate, and I've been working with moms for over 13 years with breastfeeding, a little bit of nutrition in there as well. It was really fulfilling. I loved it. It's just great working with moms and just seeing the progression of like coming in with a newborn and just seeing them thrive with breastfeeding and all that. So that's my background a little bit on that. And I've breastfed all three of my little monkeys.
I was gonna say, you come from personal experience too.
Yeah, all three. They're super nurturers. They don't want to lick.
Well, and I think you can probably speak to this. They probably all were different too.
Yes. Oh, yes. My first one was, I had a background in nursing when I went in to nurse my first one, and wow, was that an education?
Yeah.
There's a difference between the book aspect and like the hands-on physically experiencing it. So it was an awakening for me, because it was like some of the things I remember counseling some breastfeeding moms. I'm like, man, that really wasn't really great advice that time. It was like, now I can come from like the aspect of like, okay, I've gone through this, what's more realistic, what's more practical.
Yeah.
So, because my first one was rough, you don't know what you're doing, even though I had the background. It's kind of, babies are learning just like we are as we're going through it. So, but my third one definitely was just easy, just like, okay, here we go.
I did that.
Yeah.
Well, and I share that experience because my son was born like the first week of COVID, right? So even if I wanted help, like finding it, and we just didn't know things, there was so much unknown of, we muddled through a lot, and I felt very blessed to have the education I did, but I don't know how I would have done it if I didn't have that much in my back burner. Well, good. Well, so let's jump in and talk a little bit about breastfeeding and how that impacts our hormones and just our health as women overall.
Yeah, breastfeeding, really begins before you've even given birth. Our bodies and our hormone levels fluctuate through our pregnancy, clearly, but it actually prepares our breasts for lactation while you're pregnant as well. So you're preparing breastfeeding before you've even breastfed. So that aspect's incredible, the way our body kind of does that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so huge, right? Is it's such a natural thing, and that doesn't mean it's for everybody, but our bodies naturally prepare us for that. So you get those hormonal changes, your body prepares you for birth, and then your body prepares you for what comes after that. So talk to me a little bit about how breastfeeding impacts those hormones after baby's born.
Basically, once baby's born, the progesterone levels drop, and the prolactin and the happy hormones, the estrogen and all that kind of start revving up to kind of kickstart your milk supply, help with that bonding and helping with those like mother nature instincts kicking in. So it just kind of helps, rev that up, and then the more stimulation you have, the more it causes a spike of those hormones to shoot up in the brain to produce more milk, signaling, hey, more milk is needed, more stimulations, we need to produce more. So just that pattern of just back and forth.
Yeah. So I love that, because I think you brought up two things that are important that I hear oftentimes when I'm working with women and hormones is, one, we have this like drop and spike, right? So an opportunity for us to wonder where postpartum depression, anxiety, all of those things come in, can absolutely be something that's often there. The benefit of breastfeeding is there's a high association between that and improved scores as well, right?
Exactly, yeah. Once you're breastfeeding, nature kind of has its own way of like trying to balance the craziness that's going on of back and forth of dropping and increasing. For example, oxytocin is that happy hormone that kind of helps moms feel less pain, feel more at ease, more comfortable, kind of sleepy, to kind of counterbalance those like the progesterone hormones that are dropping, that for some women can lead to like mood swings and just anxiety and depression. So that estrogen or the oxytocin is there to kind of counteract that.
Yeah.
So if you have an imbalance in that, you can have the postpartum depression and that kind of thing, or just all kinds of other health issues involved with that too.
For sure. Yeah, and so I love that because oxytocin is, like you mentioned, something that helps us feel relaxed, feel connected, and help us sleep, right? So many times from moms, I hear insomnia issues, postpartum, but actually, if you're fearing breastfeeding at night, it actually can help improve your sleep and getting back to sleep, right? You gotta wake up with baby anyway.
Exactly.
And so having an oxytocin can actually help relax you and get you back to sleep.
Exactly.
Nature is wonderful.
Yeah, it helps with baby sleeping too, crazy enough too, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that, right? And then I think the other side of that is the closeness, right? And the physical bonding, and that increases other good happy hormones, right? So serotonin being one of those. And so again, can help with that postpartum balance, and just getting things back in check and helping you feel better. Again, not to say that that's going to be helpful for everybody or be the cure for everybody. And certainly if you're feeling that way, you need to seek some support.
Absolutely.
But definitely a benefit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What else? You have something else you already mentioned.
Oh, well, with postpartum depression, is, like I said, the craziness with the hormones is a big thing. So just like, even like while you're, like she mentioned, like nursing at night is, helps you with the sleep, but then it's also, these hormones play such a big role in getting your sleep that you need, because you're sleepless pretty much in those early months, pretty much. So it helps balance a lot at night. A lot of things happen at night hormonally. That's why babies kind of wake more at night. So the more increase of the stimulation of those hormones kind of help our bodies recover from birth. Like for example, oxytocin helps a lot with like the decreasing of the uterus post-delivery. So it helps with, bringing that back and just that healing. So if you're not getting that balance with the breastfeeding at night, it could eventually lead to more issues and have a harder time with like, say like the uterus or the postpartum depression and things like that.
On the flip side of that, I'm sure you probably experienced this, those early times when you're breastfeeding and your uterus is contracting.
Yes.
Don't panic, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever really fully prepares you for what that's gonna feel like. And I had a C-section personally. So like, it was extra painful when things start to contract down there. In fact, I said some 4-letter words in front of my mom who was sort of like, what happened? Like, who is this person and where did my daughter go? But I think, so appreciating that there, it's not a smooth journey and there are definitely components to that, but also not to be alarmed if that's something you head down that journey and you learn, on the flip side, that can be pretty uncomfortable as well, at least initially. It goes away pretty quick.
Yeah, and some people definitely refer to those like postpartum like basically a contraction from birth is pretty similar.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can see that. Definitely. So I think that is a huge component of it, like the postpartum mental health and the association with breastfeeding, the positive association with breastfeeding and postpartum mental health. One of the other ones I always really find fascinating and I feel like is worth bringing up is for people who breastfeed, it actually reduces their likelihood of hip fracture.
Yes, it does. It's just something about the hormone levels kind of help with our bone density and our levels with our hormones affect our calcium levels and everything. So it definitely helps with our bone density, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I know new moms usually aren't thinking about that, but as a PT and having worked years with the continuum of life, like I appreciate the risk that comes as we age for women in particular of osteoporosis and bone density issues. Struggled with that and with my own family, and just appreciating that risk of fracture is so much more likely to be debilitating. So I know you're not worried about that at 25 when you have your baby, but at the same time, I think just another bonus and blessing that we can improve our bone density with breastfeeding. So that's pretty cool.
And on top of that, there's the decreased chances of breast cancer. That's a big one to hear about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And then I think from a functional medicine standpoint, so much of our gut microbiome it actually comes from our mom, right? So our dads have very little to do with that. And so between the birthing process and breastfeeding, you're giving your child a lot of immune support, a lot of their microbiome initiated and enriched through that process. And so again, you know, and I hope nobody listening to this is thinking, gosh, I couldn't breastfeed, I feel guilty about that. Not at all. I think it's just, if you're on the fence, we wanted to be able to describe some of those benefits.
The benefits, yeah, because breastfeeding, as fantastic as the benefits are, there's always downsides for it. So for some people, it just may not be your calling, and that's perfectly fine. A fed baby is best, so.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say, and so I've talked to moms before, and if it's adding more stress to you, like if it's creating stress and you're having milk supply issues because it's so stressful, one, seek out support. You've got lactation counselors and people in your corner to help you, because this is not intuitive as many people think. But also appreciate that it's okay, you know, some breastfeeding is better than none. Fed baby is better than not fed. And so at the end of the day, doing what's right for you and your family and your baby is super important.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with that, when is a good time for them to see a lactation counselor?
Surprisingly, I highly recommend while you're pregnant, because a lot of moms come once the baby's here, and it's usually because you need help, there's problems. So basically, the best way to do it is education. Prepare yourself, give yourself the tools. That way you can kind of have something to stand on your own 2 feet with, versus being, you know, kind of caught like a chicken with your head cut off, and like, what am I doing and what's wrong? And you know, they have the hormone levels getting everywhere, you're emotional, you're sleep deprived. It's like, that's not the time.
No,
Yeah.
you're already a train wreck. Like,
Yeah.
no matter, even if everything goes perfectly, between all of that, your body just gave birth to a human.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, so it's stressful enough as it is, so to kind of give you some peace of mind, like, okay, this is what's going on, okay, this is what I need to do, or what to expect, even like things like, you know, different issues that can pop up. You can't, you're not prepared, people don't teach you about these things, like, you know, like little tongue ties, what happens if your baby has a tongue tie, or if you have inverted nipples. Who teaches you about inverted nipples before you're pregnant?
And most people don't go around comparing to other people to know, like, this is gonna be a problem or this is not, right? Like, we just don't do that.
Yeah, or even like what equipment you need, and it's just like preparing yourself to kind of have the tools that you need to kind of handle at least the basics. And then once you kind of get to that point, I need help, then we're here. We're here to help you, reaching out for that person, that the lactation consultant, to kind of step in, versus being in a panic mode when you don't need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that Paula's joined our team. And so on that note, she's been working on some really exciting things that are coming in the next couple of weeks. We're launching a breastfeeding education course, and I'm so excited about this because I feel like exactly what you just said, right? People prepare for birth and they take birthing classes and they read books, but like very infrequently do I hear anybody actually prepared for breastfeeding. They just thought it was gonna go well.
Yeah.
And I was one of those. And then you find out it doesn't go that well.
Yeah, it's always the, oh, it's natural, it's just an instinct, I'll just do it, you know, it'll just happen. No.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you add on the layers of like the world we live in, right? And the amount of time you don't get off of work, or, you know, if you're not comfortable breastfeeding in public, people are so weird about that in this stage, right? Like, so there's just so many things that you might think, I'm gonna do this, and then you actually get there, and it's harder than you thought. So that education is huge, and I'm so excied to be able to prepare moms to feel confident about that journey before they enter it.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us just a brief overview of what's in that course. What can they expect?
So the course is about 6 weeks long, and each week has several lessons. And you complete each course. They're not terribly long. They're kind of kept mom in mind, because I'm sure everyone's got a busy schedule. So it is very detailed. It gets you all the information you need and doesn't drag out. It's not like a college course or anything like that. And it gives you the basic information that you need in a way that it's easy to understand in 6 weeks. And then you have the opportunity to meet with me prenatally, and then another visit with me postnatally, and then you're welcome to join our group sessions. So just have that opportunity to share and talk to other moms having that same experience that you're going through.
Awesome. I love that. And I think there's so many things you just mentioned, like that on-demand content lets you do it when you want. So it's about 6 weeks, but we're going to give it to you all at once. So if you decide you want to cram, and study all the week before baby comes, you can do that.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Paula's made a lot of great resources. You've got some handouts, downloads, things you can refer back to at 2 a.m. when you don't know what to do, because that's when it's gonna
Yes.
happen. And I remember
Mhm.
Googling some, oh my gosh.
Oh,
the-
yeah.
Google searches, so.
Googles are the worst.
Breastfeeding.
You hear everything.
Yes, and you don't know, right? Is this
Yeah.
person writing this legit? Is
Yeah.
this outdated information? And so
Exactly.
having that knowledge from the
Mhm.
expert hand in hand, so you don't have to
Yeah.
go searching for it, it's huge. And then that community, I think it can be really isolating to be a new mom,
Yeah.
going through things, and you see other people that either it looks like it's going really well, or
Yeah.
it's going really well for you and you feel guilty sharing that. There's so many emotions, and then you add in all the hormones, it's a lot.
Mhm.
So being able to join that community, to ask the
Mhm.
questions, to celebrate the wins, to share the things that aren't going well in one place, I think is huge. So I'm excited for that too.
Mhm.
And then of course you've got our whole team behind you. So if you need our dietitian, if you need
Exactly.
our torticollis expert, our feeding expert,
Mhm.
we've got all of those things right in one place. So if you need those pieces, you've got
Mhm.
Paula, and then she can refer you out to who's
Yeah.
gonna be able to help you on the team if you need someone else.
Yeah, and then even after you're done breastfeeding, or even if you're still breastfeeding long term and other issues come up, I mean, this place here, it's fantastic. We have resources for everything.
Yeah, it's so hard being a mom, and so that really is our vision, is to bring it all to one place and make it easy from pregnancy through those later years. We see a lot of women who are well past that and working through the hormones, and you might be on that other side of that listening to this thinking, man, I'm sure glad I breastfed now for my bone density, right?
Yeah.
Which is great too. And we welcome that wisdom. I think there's so much value in having that as well. So yeah, we love that. Well, good. Okay, so I think we've covered everything for today. We talked about some good benefits of breastfeeding if you're on that front end and thinking about that in your future. Hopefully that helps inform your decision. You know you've got resources now available to you if you need them, and they'll be coming soon. You'll be able to find more information about that on our website. You can book with Paula there as well. And you can certainly reach out to us if you have any questions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have learned something new today that will inform your decision in womanhood and motherhood. Until next time.